Welcome back. Lately, I've been chasing ghosts. But not the kind that rattle chains, whispering sweet death through empty halls. But rather the quiet type that hides in grainy footage and speaks through distorted voices on the VCR. Public access broadcasts with too much silence between their words. Educational programs that spew nature facts for young kids. Commercials for media now lost to time. I don't know when this chase started. This feeling of running through familiar, empty rooms, maybe after high school, when the world began to move on and I tried to stay in one place. You could call this feeling nostalgia, and it's a tricky one to describe, but we all feel it. A spirit of our past that provides comfort to our aging minds. A whisper that calls us back not just to memories, but places, people, and arguably, most importantly, the feeling of being small, of being safe, unaware of larger forces at play. The series I'm talking about tonight takes this feeling and twists it like a screw driven into bone by a surgeon with shaking hands.
We can hear you.
It uses the warmth of nostalgia to lull its viewers before plunging them into something far colder and disturbing. It comforts you with what you know, and then shows you something you were never meant to see. Uploaded by YouTube creator Remy Abode, Gemini Home Entertainment tells a haunting and intricate story that's as fascinating as it is hard to fully decipher. With minimal spoken dialogue and little to no mentions of actual characters or dates, the mystery of Gemini's story has fascinated me for years. The series presents itself as a collection of instructional videos, documentaries, and other types of media you'd expect to see on late-night cable television. However, as you watch, the content reveals disturbing and often supernatural events connected to an overarching cosmic horror story. Combining themes of nature, existential dread, and body horror to create a series of videos that are uniquely disturbing. A transmission from another reality, playing on a fear rooted deep within human existence. The fear that we were never alone, and that maybe we were never meant to survive what lies beyond our view. Though the series has been dormant for a couple years, Remy has assured fans that it hasn't been abandoned, but is just on hold for technical issues.
And the main reason for that is my computer, which I've used to edit every Gemini video, crapped out on me a couple months ago. And I have tried to get it working. I got my brother to look at it over this Christmas break, and he couldn't get it working. All my Gemini assets are on there. They're on an external hard drive, I hope. But yeah, so Gemini is at a bit of a standstill right now because I can't edit any videos.
So by demand of some loyal viewers and pure enjoyment on my own part, we will be taking a closer look at the incredible work that is Gemini Home Entertainment. If you haven't seen the series for yourself, I highly recommend that you stop my video now, binge watch Gemini in its entirety, and then come back, because I guarantee you will be slightly confused by the end. In all seriousness though, Gemini is my favorite analog horror series, and I firmly believe that it is one of the greatest pieces of YouTube horror ever made. Skipping it would be a disservice to yourself. But for those who either don't care or have seen the series, we have a long journey ahead of us. From the deep reaches of space to the underwater trenches of the Earth, the anatomy of the human body, and a forest of monsters. This is the story of Gemini Home Entertainment. The first tape on our watch list is titled World's Weirdest Animals. A seemingly ordinary nature documentary that aims to teach us about the wildlife that roams the state of Minnesota. The first animal featured in the tape is known as the greater prairie chicken. The video tells us some facts about this animal, accompanied by calming background music and cute B-roll footage. Animal number 2 is the burrowing owl. Once again, we are shown footage of the animal and told some fun facts about what they get up to. The tone of the tape shifts when we are introduced to our third animal, which, as opposed to the other two that came previously, is denoted to be found everywhere. The calming music we had previously is removed from the video, leaving us in an ominous silence. The animal is referred to as a woodcrawler. We don't get a clear image of the creature, but the video does give us some facts about them. We are told that woodcrawlers are excellent hunters that traverse all over North America, capable of moving through most terrain without even making a sound. We are also told that they prefer to nest inside the homes of large families, where they can more easily adapt. What this adaptation entails is not immediately clear to us at this time. The silence continues, and the tape tells us that if we hear screaming, that they stole their voices. In a more creepy turn, the tape instructs us to burn the bodies, lest they stand up again. After this, we get our first glimpse at a woodcrawler, which the tape labels as nature's mockery, a term that will become synonymous with the series. The tape experiences some glitches before we cut to some footage taken outside of the same house at night. The person recording approaches the house and we can see some people inside. Something is clearly wrong. Their movements are stiff, and some just stand there, moving their jaws as if they're trying to figure out how to speak. The tape labels these individuals as fake people. This, combined with their strange behavior, hints that the adaptation of the woodcrawlers could refer to the process of them stealing a person's body for themselves. When attempting to get more footage, the person recording is spotted by one of these fake people, who then begins to charge at them, causing the video to cut off before we can see any more. One thing I have always questioned about this first video is, who is filming it? The person behind the camera seems to know a great deal about the woodcrawlers and appears to be using the Gemini Home Entertainment distribution platform to spread awareness. But does Gemini know about this distribution? Or has their platform been hijacked? The first video leaves us with many questions, but also leaves us with one undeniable truth. This truth being that woodcrawlers are to be avoided at all costs. They don't just take lives, they steal identities, turning their victims into grotesque parodies of humanity. In their wake, they leave nothing but hollow imitations. The second tape we will be diving into is a storm safety instructional video, brought to us by a company known as Harbinge Technologies. The tape aims to help the viewer prepare with knowledge on how to protect their family and home from a storm. The video is split into 3 segments, each with their own instructions. The first segment covers storm preparation. The advice listed in the first part is pretty straightforward information. We are told to reinforce our home, install an early warning system that Harbinge Technologies conveniently happens to manufacture, and create a storm bunker. However, the requirements for the bunker's construction are oddly specific. We are told the bunker should measure in at 18 feet long by 10 feet tall, with a concrete foundation at least 8 inches thick. One interesting instruction is to install a large aluminum dome right in the center of our bunker, along with a shortwave radio that Harbinge Technologies also provides. The second segment of our instructions explains what we should do during a storm. We are told to follow these simple steps. Step 1. Quietly take your family to your bunker. Your home does not belong to you now. Step 2. Turn on shortwave radio. Ignore all sounds produced from the radio. These are auditory hallucinations. Step 3. Remain calm. Your tears are filled with salt. The instructions listed in each step seem normal at first, but each line contains unsettling hints that suggest the storm being referred to here is no ordinary weather event. Segments like "Your home does not belong to you now," "Ignore all sounds produced from the radio," and "Your tears are filled with salt" makes me question what the term storm is actually referring to in this video. The third part of our instructions lay out what we should do after the storm has ended. We are told to exit the bunker and survey our surroundings. If our home has experienced severe damage, we are told to check for movement inside. If we hear what the tape refers to as the chime, we are safe and the storm has passed over. After this, we are told to look to the field, and if we see lights, we should return to our bunker. We briefly see some footage of these lights in a dark field before the tape tells us to listen for something crawling under our feet. So this is all pretty creepy, but what does it mean? It is a little hard to say at this time, but we can make some assumptions. In the previous video, we learned that the woodcrawlers like to nest in the homes of large families, so they can more easily adapt. It can be assumed the storm this video is referring to is a woodcrawler invasion. However, it's unclear whether these invasions are a rare occurrence or an accepted part of life in this universe, but they do seem to have made their presence known. I also find the overall message of the video confusing because it contradicts itself many times. We are told to turn on the radio in case of an emergency, but then we are told to ignore all sounds that come from it. Similarly, while hearing the chime supposedly signals safety, we are still advised to watch for lights in the field. Also, the bizarre mention of our tears containing salt implies that woodcrawlers may be drawn to them in some way. The lights in the field likely belong to woodcrawlers surveying the area after a storm, laying eyes on the person recording. All this information, again, leaves me wondering who made this tape and why. Harbinge Technologies is credited for its creation, but it seems to have been tampered with in some way, calling into question the moral integrity of this company. Another question we are left with is this: what exactly are the woodcrawlers? And why are they here? The next tape is a bit of an enigma. For a reason that is unknown to me, the tape we will be covering next was deleted from the channel. To get the footage you are seeing now, I had to find a re-upload of it. I have credited the uploader in my description. The next tape changes up the scenery a bit. Rather than rural Minnesota, we are placed into the deep blue sea. Created by a Geneva production company, the premise of this tape, much like the previous ones, is very simple. It takes us below the surface of the ocean to explore its wildlife and environment. We are shown schools of fish, stingrays, and whales before the video tells us that while some wildlife in the ocean are dangerous, the ocean's most formidable weapon is the environment itself. Towards the second half of the video, we are shown a region known as the Marianas Trench, the deepest known location in the ocean. When shown a diagram of the Marianas Trench, we see that it is accompanied by a deeper region of the ocean labeled as the Demisia Tunnel. Now, I'll admit, I got curious, and I wanted to know why Remy chose to call the tunnel by this name. When doing a little bit of research, I found that Demisia is strangely similar to the Romanian word, and I'm totally gonna say it wrong, demisie, which when translated into English means resignation. This could symbolically suggest giving up control or surrendering to an overwhelming force of some kind, possibly hinting that entering the tunnel involves abandoning one's agency, sanity, or even identity. Although I could be blowing this way out of proportion. I think a more simple answer is that demisia is very similar to the word demise, signaling to us that, well, this tunnel is full of bad stuff, and that if you are to traverse this immense depth, your demise is imminent. The Marianas Trench is measured to have a depth of roughly 11,035 meters, while the depth of the Demisia Tunnel remains unknown. The video plunges us into the inky blackness of the deep, before telling us that nothing can live inside the Marianas Trench. But it would seem that this immense depth has no effect on one creature in particular. We get our first good image of a woodcrawler. Deep below the waves, withstanding the immense pressure of the ocean's deepest tunnel. I am led to believe that this is a woodcrawler for two reasons. First, being that its legs had the same arachnid-like appearance of the Nature's Mockery creature seen in the first tape, and the second being the fact that it possesses a glowing eye-like organ in the center of its head, much like the lights seen in storm safety tips. This image displays how woodcrawlers are not only imposing creatures with an otherworldly appearance, but that they are terrifyingly resilient, being able to traverse all kinds of environments, including the deepest depths of the ocean. They can be found everywhere, and are seemingly indestructible. Our next tape is brought to us by Regnad Computing, a company focused on pushing the boundaries of computer capabilities, specifically artificial intelligence. In this demonstration, we will be shown the progression of artificial thought within a computer's intelligence. It's at this point I found it notable that this video contains no music, leaving us once again in an ominous silence. This signals to me that the video and those who made it have manufactured it this way intentionally, rather than possibly being tampered with like the previous tapes. This combined with the fact that the name of the company, Regnad is actually danger spelled backwards, really hints that they shouldn't be trusted. Before the demonstration begins, the tape gives us some background on Regnad as a company. We learn they have been developing artificial intelligence for 4 years and have produced the world's most advanced artificial intelligence to date. In the demonstration we are about to see, we will witness the artificial intelligence attempt to create an original formatted children's story. To demonstrate how the AI learns over time, 4 iterations of the story are shown to us. Iteration 1. Jack leapt over the river. Mary to follow, together. Travel, follow, the secret. Jack the river. It is dead. It is pretty unintelligible, but it's on to something. There are elements to the story, like the mention of 2 characters, Jack and Mary, as well as a river and a secret. The plot threads tying these elements together are left out, however. A great metaphor for the mystery of Gemini's story. Iteration 2. Jack leapt over the river. Mary followed close behind. They are searching for the secret place. I hear you. This iteration adds coherence, with Jack and Mary seeking a secret place across a river. Then there is the line, I hear you. It's strange, but it is an AI writing the story. It could just be another mistake in the computer's programming. Right? Iteration 3. Jack leapt over the river. There goes Mary down the stream. The secret place will keep us safe. The river flows, but not with water. This is the most complex iteration so far. It seems to be telling somewhat of a cohesive story, but once again, it is very simple. So many details are left out. In this iteration, Mary appears to fall into the river, getting taken away by the stream. The line, the river flows but not with water, could refer to Mary being injured as she falls in, making the river run with her blood. There is also the possibility that the river being referred to in this video isn't actually a river, but something else entirely. And what the secret is will remain, well, a secret for now. Iteration 4. Jack heard it again. There's a voice from space. Jack, do you see me? I have become something else. Listen to the silver box. The stars are moving now. Do you see the hungry eye? Here I am. Alright, let's go ahead and talk about this. In order to try and make sense out of these story iterations, it's important to look at them as a whole and see what is consistent. Let's start off with our 2 characters, Jack and Mary. They both seem to know about a special place located out in the wild known as The Secret. In order to reach this location, they need to cross a river, but along the way, something happens to Mary. She is carried away by the river, which once again could be referring to a literal river or something else entirely. What I'm getting at is that it's possible she could have been taken by something. There is also the fact that when putting these iterations together, you can notice a slight pattern in iterations 2 and 4. For the most part, the story being told by the computer takes place in the third person, but there are lines that take place in the first person. When putting these lines together, you get the sequence. I hear you. Jack, do you see me? I have become something else. Listen to the silver box. Do you see the hungry eye? Here I am. I believe this to be Mary speaking to Jack after she was carried away by the river, since he is directly referenced, as well as some audio that plays during the final iteration, which we can clearly make out to be someone speaking. I tried to decipher what was actually being said in this audio, but unfortunately when reversing and editing the audio in a bunch of different ways, I came up with nothing. But even without editing the speaker's voice, we can hear that it somewhat resembles a woman. All this leads me to believe this story has much more significance than we are first led to believe. Jack and Mary are possibly real people, and whatever happened to them is real as well. Let's talk about the more mysterious lines we are given, starting off with the silver box. I believe the silver box to be the computer, clearly a message for us to listen in on what the computer has to say. It's either that or, I don't know, a radio. The wording is strange, as I'm pretty sure at this point in time every person knows what a computer is, so the message calling it a silver box makes me feel like the sender is something that isn't accustomed to human technology yet. Bringing up the question, is this really an AI talking, or something else entirely? Next we have the mention of the hungry eye. Once again, an odd phrase. At the very end of the video, we get some quick flashes of diagrams depicting something that seems to resemble an eye. The first reminds me most of the planet Jupiter, especially since we had the mention of a voice from space during one of the story iterations, and this smaller dot seems to represent the Great Red Spot in Jupiter's atmosphere. One eerie detail about this diagram is this entity is labeled to be alive and have intent, with an arrow pointing at a smaller circle that I can only assume represents Earth. The next diagram is of this strange shape that seems to represent an eye with long tendrils extending out. I believe this to be the hungry eye, although what it is exactly can only be assumed at this point. While the tape offers more information than the previous entries, it leaves us with unsettling questions. What happened to Jack and Mary? Is this story a warning or a message? And who or what is really speaking through the computer? I guess we'll just have to see where the story goes to find out. You know, videos like this really take me back. The days in science class where the teacher would roll out their old CRT TV and shove a nature documentary into the VHS player were the best days of school. This tape radiates with that kind of nostalgia, aiming to educate us about our solar system and the planets within it. But if you pay close attention, you'll see there seems to be an extra planet added to the solar system. What the heck is that about? The tape starts out ordinary, moving its way through our solar system, starting with the sun. The first oddity we witness comes when the video highlights Mars. One of the facts we are given in this segment is that pieces of Mars have fallen to Earth in the form of meteorites. The fact is not too weird on its own, but when this fact is revealed to us, the tape experiences a short glitch, signaling that this little fact about Mars might hold some significance. We are then shown Jupiter, and the video makes sure to mention that the big red spot in its atmosphere is not an eye. Creepy. And when the video experiences another glitch, we can briefly see the text change, telling us that the great red spot, rather than being an eye, is an open wound. Creepier. The video makes its way to Saturn, where it makes sure to show us its iconic rings, referring to them as the gateway. A gateway to what? The video then goes on to show us your mother. When the video covers Neptune, it makes sure to highlight its great dark spot, referring to it as the lens. Neptune has been mutated. We are then shown a planet called the Iris. It is with us now, laughing at us. The Iris, the hungry eye. The tape brings the threat of the series away from Earth, introducing a cosmic entity with unknown origins. But whatever the Iris really is, one thing is for sure. It is alive, and it has intent. Whatever the intent of the Iris is, it has caused its neighboring planet of Neptune to mutate. At the end of the video, we see what I can only describe as a beam of light shooting out from Neptune, making its way through our solar system. We can't be sure of what this means, but what we do know is that the Iris knows where we are, and it's coming for us. Our next tape is presented in the form of a camp information video that details the many attractions at the Moonlight Acres family campgrounds. Established all the way back in 1930, Moonlight Acres has devoted itself to the families of North America, providing a location for them to make memories that they won't forget anytime soon. We are taken through the activities the camp provides, and I gotta say, it's a pretty decent roster. We can hike on the trails, partake in archery, canoe down the river, or witness the camp's famous Lights in the Sky event, which the tape labels as the Harvest. The tape then goes on to show us its luxurious cabins, completely burrow-free. And with the most up-to-date safety technology, such as the siren seen in the Storm Safety Tips video, we can rest easy knowing that our security is in the camp's hands. We are told not to answer the knocking at the door before the tape transitions us into a section about its mythos. We are told that tall tales have been shared around from person to person throughout the camp's lifetime. In the first clear date we are given for the series, that being 1935, we are told that rumors spread around the campgoers about well-dressed men visiting the camp every so often. Those who saw the men stated that they would enter the camp administrator's cabin every night for years. One night, a deal was made with these men, and they left, never to be seen again. Another popular event that arose during the same time period was the reports that people staying at the camp were seeing skinwalkers roaming the forest. In Navajo culture, the term skinwalker refers to a harmful witch who has the ability to wear the skin of an animal, disguising themselves as they carry on with their often malicious acts of violence. Vessels. A term that's used to refer to people who answered the knocking at the door. This tape has some very dark implications. On the outside, it seems like Moonlight Acres is nothing but a beautiful tourist attraction for families to experience, but under the surface, a dark history is revealing itself. A backdoor deal with mysterious, well-dressed men was made, and people started hearing knocking at their doors. They answered and found a woodcrawler waiting outside. With these people being labeled as vessels, the mention of skinwalkers, and the information we know from World's Weirdest Animals, we can assume that the woodcrawlers stole the bodies of these people, claiming them as empty containers for their malicious needs. In one of the final shots of this tape, we see something approaching a window to one of the cabins. We don't see much of it, but we see enough to notice a difference between it and the woodcrawlers. So, some questions remain. What deal was made with the strange, well-dressed men? Are they letting the woodcrawlers do this? And what the hell is this thing? Anybody else love video games? Well, if you do, you're in luck, because the next segment of this video will be dedicated to a game known as Lethal Omen, developed by our good friends over at Regnad Computing. On the Gemini Home Entertainment channel, we can watch a trailer for the game, showing us what it has to offer: intense action, challenging puzzles, and an underlying message. Within this commercial, we are shown more extensive gameplay footage, almost like a walkthrough. What we can make out right off the bat is that the game takes place at a campground, which we can assume to be Moonlight Acres. Telling from the archery targets and the signs that point to family cabins, two things Moonlight Acres proudly stated they had in the previous tape. The path to the family cabins is blocked off, which pushes our unknown player forward into the archery area. When they arrive, they are greeted by a few enemies that rush them. The enemies appear to be normal-looking men, dressed in camo or some kind of camp uniform. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that these are the fake people the series referred to in the first tape, since we know Moonlight Acres has a ongoing woodcrawler problem. These people probably got their bodies snatched and are now trying to kill the player. But luckily, the player is armed with a gun, which they use to dispose of the enemies and continue further. As they move forward, the player stops and shoots at some newspaper articles laid out on the ground next to one of the archery targets. It is extremely difficult to make out the contents of them, but after some time looking and trying to figure out what they say, I think I have some of the cliff notes. The top page details how the famous Light in the Sky event has been cancelled at Moonlight Acres. Campgoers are enraged because of this, and when the Times asks Moonlight Acres for an interview, they decline. The second page is a lot harder. The only thing I can properly make out is that there seems to be a photograph on the left-hand side, leaving me with the gut instinct that this could be a missing person. The player walks over to a large cabin with a bunker and a siren situated outside, reminiscent of the Storm Safety Tips video. They walk into the clearing, where they find this strange mass that contains the remains of a person inside. For clarity's sake, I'll let you know right now, I'll be referring to this mass as nature's mockery, due to an explanation we get later on. After this, they are pursued by an enemy that they are unable to kill. The siren goes off, prompting them to run to the bunker, which is now open. It seems the steps we were told in Storm Safety Tips were actually useful after all. The player exits the bunker, and the commercial tells us that the game uses artificial intelligence for its game engine. In almost complete darkness, the player makes their way out of the camp towards the sun. They turn around to see this. The iris, watching and waiting. The ending combined with the game's title suggests that this is a telling of what is to come from the series. But man, it still seems like we're missing something from this game. It's a shame we can't actually play it for ourselves. Huh. Well, that's the thing. We can play it. It's real. And that's exactly what I did.
Alright, what's up everybody? This is Critical here, and today we're taking a look at the Gemini Home Entertainment game, Lethal Omen. Apparently it's pretty hype, so let's get into this shit and see what it's all about.
Can you imagine if I just did a moist critical voice for this whole segment of the video to differentiate the voiceover? I'd probably kill myself. You probably would too, so I'm not gonna do that. Ooh, jumping is fun. Lethal Omen has a lot to unpack. Within the game lies 5 different endings you can achieve by performing specific tasks within your gameplay sessions. But first, let's have a look around.
We got an overturned car. Kinda hidden over to the side. There's another one over here that kinda looks like a police car. You can see right there. It might suggest that the person we're playing as is actually a cop. Maybe. The game starts by placing us outside the Moonlight Acres campground and gives us the task of collecting 3 keys in order to open the camp's front gate. Exploring, we can discover 2 vehicles in the immediate vicinity. One overturned just off the road, and another blocked off that resembles a police cruiser. After collecting the 3 keys, the gate to the camp is unlocked. Stepping inside, we can notice a few things. Here I come. Alright. It's a very quiet game. It's very, eerie. Lights in the Sky event is what I can tell that to say. 9:30 p.m. If you take a step back, it's a little easier to read. Reminder. Bring your SIV. It's kind of hard to make out, but there's an arrow pointing to something through what I can assume to be stars, maybe pointing to the iris. The first is this bulletin board that contains 2 images that are hard to make out, and 2 notes, which are, lucky for us, also very hard to make out. The one on the left-hand side seems to detail the start time for the camp's famous Lights in the Sky event, which is listed to take place at 9:30. The other seems to be informing us that we should bring our SIV. The SIV is something that for now is a mystery to us, but I assure you, we will get to it soon. Then there's the cabins. In the first, we can see a radio, a TV, headphones, and a Gemini Home Entertainment tape, strangely enough. The second contains mostly the same items, but with a larger stack of tapes, one of them clearly resembling the storm safety tips video we covered earlier. Gosh, I've referenced that video a lot. In the third cabin, we can actually see a TV playing a Gemini Home Entertainment tape. This is foreshadowing, as we will actually cover this tape later on. However, from what is shown, we are told that the SIV is a device known as the Sleep Image Visualizer, and the tape seems to be an instructional video on how to use it. Connect your Sleep Image Visualizer, SIV, to your computer using the cord provided. What does that say? That looks like the siren from Storm Safety Tips, though. You can kind of see, this definitely says storm safety tips, so it's almost like that tape specifically was distributed around the Moonlight Acres camp. And then you got some more of these ones that are, I guess, a little blank. Can't really tell exactly what they're on about. Yummy. Thanks to a video posted by MacG, I figured out that if you look or shoot at this TV, we can actually see the sleep image visualization of Adam Livich, the former men's club supervisor. The room is noticeably in a more chaotic state. There's a large break in the cabin's floor that contains an SIV tape surrounded by some sort of organic-looking mass. Making our way out of the cabins, we come to our first batch of enemies in the archery area. Now, something tells me that I'm about to go absolutely stupid on them. Like I said, game's made for babies. After killing these enemies, we can find 2 newspaper clippings. Playing the game, these newspaper clippings are a little more clearer than they were in the actual video. The top clipping still seems to detail the cancellation of the Lights in the Sky event, and campgoers are disappointed mainly due to the fact that no clear reason was given for the cancellation. The second seems to be detailing the disappearance of someone named Jordan Barnes, which confirms my instinct to be correct, and now we actually have a name for the person who is missing. However, the rest of the clipping is still partially covered, so this is all the information I could get. If we keep moving, we can make our way to the administrator's cabin, where we find some interesting details. Alright, check this out. 360. Stupid faces, dude. Let's see, the camp staff, 1984, 94, I think 84. It's like the administrator's bedroom. Still not sure what that is. Could be like one of those like gas lanterns or something. So we got a bunch of these tapes here, and they're all blank, so it almost makes me wonder if maybe this is... So we'll talk about the SIV later, but I'm wondering, you can kind of see it's like a sleep image visualizer, so I'm wondering if these are all for the camp goers maybe recording their dreams onto or something like that, their sleep images, because they're all blank, unless they're just loading a bunch of these with storm safety tips or something. Further inside, we find a shelf full of TVs and an unnaturally placed door floating behind us on the wall. Well, that's not supposed to be there, is it? God damn it. Come on! Ugh. Alright. That took way longer than it needed to be. Bunch of blank tapes and some TVs. Got a few notes down here. Future me, what the hell are these guys talking about, huh? Through some clever platforming, we can enter this door and find a room full of televisions scattered all about, and various notes on the floor beneath them. The first note reads, "It is looking into me. Wants to eat the camp. I fear the men may return. My face is going away." The second note, "I hear voices. The spot on my neck has grown. There is a bonfire tonight. I will stay in my bedroom." The third note, "Lights in the Sky is tonight. I have been told the men will be present. Maybe it will leave us alone now." With these notes, we have mentions of elements we are familiar with, and some we aren't, particularly the mention of a spot growing on a person's neck, suggesting that there is some sort of infection going around the camp. The second is the mention of the men,
which seems to be referring to the well-dressed men who showed up to the camp in 1935 to make this mysterious deal with the camp's administrators. It seems that they did return during the Lights in the Sky event, as told in the third note, but for what reason we are unsure of at this time. If we move outside of the cabin, progressing the game linearly, we can find the same patch of nature's mockery outside, containing a person inside its grasp. After this, the enemy from the commercial spawns and we are told to run. If we play the game like the commercial, we run and hide in the bunker only for it to get attacked by a woodcrawler.
Like Zoink Scoob. This was not in the job description. So I don't think the bunker works. Oop. Strange, it brings you back. I did not realize that. So after that happens, can you do it endlessly? If you walk into the sphere, it takes you back. You can get killed over and over again. Okay. Whoa. Spooky. As you can see, there's no iris up there. Because the ending is a little bit different from the trailer. I don't feel like I won.
In the original ending of the commercial, the player walked out of the bunker and turned around to see the iris staring directly at them. In the actual game, though, we hear the cries of someone in need. We can see that they are clearly infected with the same mass we saw in the cabin's broken floor. The first ending of the game is achieved by playing the game as you saw in the commercial, and although the ending is slightly different, the concept is the same. They both end with the iris finding you. Let's go ahead and talk about the other endings now, starting with the mannequin ending. To do this, you simply have to make your way back to the administrator cabin and go through that same floating door. Only this time, when you turn around, you will encounter a strange mannequin that stares at you. When you approach it, the following video plays.
I'm gonna touch you inappropriately.
Creepy. The next ending is a little more tricky. To unlock it, you need to collect all of the keys and make your way through the game until you come across nature's mockery. But rather than going back to the bunker, you instead need to take this hidden path through the wall and collect this infected-looking key. Once you do this, you have to find this target to shoot. Once you do, the blocked-off section of the highway opens up for you. In the next ending, you make your way back into the camp. After killing the first round of enemies, shoot all of the archery targets and make your way back to the entrance. You will find the wall is now open to you. If you follow the path, you find this.
This one special looking tree. So quiet, it's creepy. But there is a path over here. This looks like my bum after Taco Bell. Scary. Well, better go inside.
A massive hole in the ground covered in this mass. Like any logical person, you will jump in. And now for the final ending. The true ending. In order to get it, you must do everything you did prior. Get the keys, kill the enemies, shoot the targets, hit nature's mockery, collect the infected key, and make your way to the broken wall. Following this path, we find some enemies not trying to kill us, but just waiting for us. If we make our way to this monument they are gathered around, we get the following scene. Strangely, after we die, the game continues. Following the light, we come across a tree with a sign that reads, "Shifting tendons, shape anatomy." There are fewer livestock now. Another reads, "Wretched hands tap my window. A stranger's fangs scrape the wall."
And one detail, I think, I didn't notice this before, but when you walk, there's like no sound, at least when you're outside. Like the floor is creaking, yes, but there's like no sound now, as opposed to before when you had these loud footsteps. Now, if you remember, wood crawlers, they don't make sound.
The floorboards creak while I sleep. Growing cracks leak with red. The field has eyes burning deep. They are becoming restless. There is so much to unpack in Lethal Omen, it isn't even funny. Let's start with the mannequins. What they are is, of course, unclear to us at this time, and what role they serve is also unknown. If I had to guess, they might represent the well-dressed men, but I can't be too sure since there isn't any confirmation yet. The next thing to talk about is the hole in the ground, which I'm going to say is a nest for the wood crawlers placed right outside the camp. We know that wood crawlers have been spotted around the camp ever since the 1930s, and they can burrow underground, so it would make sense calling this their hiding place. Whatever material they are making their nest out of seems to be able to create the nature's mockery or infect a person directly. And judging by the crack in the last cabin, it seems that their nest runs underneath the entire camp. The police car seems to represent how bad the issue is, with people like Jordan Barnes going missing quite frequently. And oh yeah, that strange monument in the true ending. This detail is tough to decipher, but it is without a doubt a terrifying representation of how hopeless Gemini's world is. It is interesting how in each ending of the game, it is implied that you die. Every single time. In the true ending, we succumb to our situation, knowing that there is nothing we can do but accept the end of our existence, making way for the Iris's takeover. Alright, so before we move forward, let's take a moment to breathe and collect our thoughts. Gemini Home Entertainment has thrown a lot at us already, and if you're feeling disoriented, that's completely intentional. So I've put this segment here to help us gather the pieces we've been given so far, so that we can keep them in mind moving forward once we hopefully get some answers. First and foremost, let's start off with the woodcrawlers. They seem to be the most primary threat of the series. These creatures can mimic life, steal identities, and nest inside homes, especially those of large families. They adapt, they burrow, they imitate. They steal the bodies of people and render them hollow, fake versions. And even survive at the bottom of the ocean, in a place so deep that nothing else can live. Their ability to traverse land, sea, and possibly more makes them the most terrifying force in the series. That is until we talk about the Iris. The Iris is a conscious, planet-sized cosmic entity, a hungry force, referred to as the Eye. I believe the woodcrawlers actually originate from the Iris. This light that we see mutating Neptune, or I guess shooting through it, could be carrying the woodcrawlers to our planet, but that's just a theory. Now let's talk about some of the companies that we've seen so far. There's the standard Geneva production company that did the Deep Blue video. And then there's Harbinge Technologies. On the surface, they're a simple technology company dedicated to helping the masses with their inventions. But beneath that corporate veneer lies something sinister. Bunkers with suspiciously specific dimensions, radios that can't be trusted, and contradictions that hint at something more than just bad writing. Harbinge seems either woefully unequipped for what they're dealing with or intentionally complicit. Regnad Computing, on the other hand, isn't as subtle. Their AI stories hint at possession, death, a strange cosmic awareness of sorts. Jack and Mary's tale is no simple narrative, it may be fragmented memory. Through the silver box, something speaks, something not entirely human or AI, and it warns of an entity watching us from above. Whatever evil is now circulating through Earth, I believe Moonlight Acres serves as ground zero. It's where legends of skinwalkers, mysterious men in suits, and nature's mockery all collide. Something really important happened at this campground. Some kind of deal was made between the camp administrators and these mysterious, well-dressed men. After this, or maybe even before, the camp became a breeding ground for woodcrawlers. In Lethal Omen, we can see all of these elements colliding with each other. The storm bunker, the woodcrawlers, the fake people, nature's mockery, the SIV, which we don't know a whole lot about yet, the Gemini distribution platform, a missing person in the newspaper, and some very strange mannequins. a bunch of elements that we don't have a clear picture of yet. But what it really comes down to is this. There's a cosmic threat out in space that wants to take down Earth. It's sent its own forces here to destroy us, and the camp is ground zero. Many companies are either trying to help, or they have given themselves over to the Iris and its influence. But with all this information stacked away into our brain, I think it's time we move through the rest of the tapes and finish out Gemini's story for ourselves. In our next tape, we set off into the wild to learn all about wilderness survival, brought to us in the form of an instructional video created by Jack Wilder. If the name sounds familiar, it should. Jack was mentioned in the artificial computer learning tape a while back. We start off the tape learning about some basic skills that we will need if we were to ever go into the wilderness for ourselves. We are told to be prepared and bring specific supplies, as the wilderness contains very hazardous wildlife. When we are shown how to avoid being attacked by a bear, we get an unpleasant image. Transitioning from this, we are told what plant life to avoid. During this segment, we are shown something called nature's mockery, a familiar phrase that seems not only to refer to woodcrawlers, but something else entirely, something that resembles the weird organic mass we saw in Lethal Omen. The risks of coming into contact with nature's mockery are hallucinations, sudden muscular paralysis, body disfigurement, and flesh decay. All pretty nasty and abnormal stuff. Still not as bad as poison ivy. When looking back to Lethal Omen, we can easily see that this fleshy mass is actually nature's mockery with a person inside, which begs the question of where nature's mockery comes from and what its purpose is. The next section of the video shows us some sounds we need to avoid when exploring the wilderness. I'll go ahead and let this segment play for you, as it's one of my favorite segments of the series. The same voice calling for help that we heard in Lethal Omen is denoted to be an auditory hallucination. I'm hesitant to believe this is true from a moral standpoint, but with the knowledge we have gained from the series, we know that woodcrawlers overtake people's bodies, turning them into fake people. So this leaves us with two options. The first is that this could be a person who has had their body stolen from a woodcrawler,
and the creature is using the person's voice to lure more people in. The second is that the person is completely aware of what is happening to them, and that they are actually begging for help as their body is overtaken by a monster. No time to dwell on that now, though, because it's time to build a campfire. Like previously, we are told what materials we will need and what to do with them. If our fire fails to start, however, we are told to follow the lights. Seeing this person in the field, this visual representation of the audio we heard previously, is one of the creepiest moments from the series and has stuck with me for years. Seeing this person's body move at the will of something else entirely as they call out for help is extremely unsettling. The video ends with a segment on how to treat infections that you would get out in the wild. We are told to wash the infected area of your body, use ointment, and rip the foreign object from your body. Although we see a silhouette, I'm going to assume that this is the same person from the field, as they look very similar. We can also find his silhouette in the first video of the series, leading me to believe that this person patrols around the cabin we saw in the first tape, which also points to the possibility that Jack was the one behind the world's weirdest animals. More threats keep piling up. Although one person is aware, what will they do with this information? We won't know until we move forward. The next video on our watch list is an odd one. It is brought to us by the familiar company of Harbinge Technologies, and much like the Storm Safety Tips video, we are presented with an instructional guide, but rather on how to protect ourselves from a storm, this video educates us on how to use the company's new product, the Sleep Image Visualizer. It is a device used to capture images in people's brains as they sleep. We are shown the process of setting the device up, and we get some information on how it works. The device comes with two pieces,
the SIV main module, and the SIV headset. The only thing we will need to obtain for ourselves is a computer, so we can observe the rendered visuals of our sleep. One thing that caught my attention is that while the video is describing the different components that make up the headset, the main portion that rests on the person's head is an aluminum dome. Why this catches my eye is because in Storm Safety Tips, yes, I'm referencing that video again, we are instructed to install a large aluminum dome in the center of our storm bunker. That, coupled with the fact that both visuals are produced by the same company, makes me wonder if there is a connection, and I'm sure there is, I just don't know what it is at this time. We are told how to properly set up the sleep image visualizer, and before we are told how to actually use it, we are interrupted by footage taken from one of these machines. The sleep image visualization we see was taken from a person named Levi Jacobs, and shows this strange mannequin figure peeking through an open doorway. The image lasted from 5:24 to 5:30, so this instance was relatively short. As far as the mannequin goes, it looks very similar to this figure in the diagram that shows us how to wear the helmet. Maybe Levi had just watched the instructions and went to bed right after, causing him to dream about the strange figure looking into his bedroom. Getting back to the instructions, we are told to lay down and the SIV will record automatically. The video tells us good night, showing us the horizon as the sky rotates and slowly turns to night, the iris peeking out to say hello. We are shown another sleep image visualization from someone named Adrian Gordon. We see an empty room filled with seats and a strange robot-like figure in the center. After this, the video resumes and we are told that all recordings taken from the device are sent to and are legally the property of Harbinge Technologies. It is here we cut to a sleep image visualization from Jack Dean. In it, we see who I can assume to be Jack lying on the bed, and the same mannequin-esque figure sitting down beside him. The video tells us that any images that come out of the sleep image visualizer do not represent reality, and that dreams cannot tell the future. The final moments of the video show the visualization of a man named Joseph Allen, showing the iris rising from the horizon. The video makes it very clear that the images produced in the sleep image visualizer do not reflect reality and do not tell the future. Whether this is true or not can only be theorized at this point, but one thing is clear. This device is not safe. If you look at the time and dates of each visualization we are shown, we can see Levi was asleep for 6 minutes, Adrian was asleep for 4, Jack was asleep for 3 days, and Joseph never woke up. I feel it's time I address the elephant in the room, Jack. His name has been mentioned 3 times up until this point. First in the artificial computer learning video, second in the wilderness survival guide, and the third being this video. While his last name is different in the Wilderness Survival video, I will tell you that these two names are, without a doubt, the same person. If we look over to the community tab of Gemini Home Entertainment, the actual YouTube channel, we can see an article about the disappearance of a wildlife expert named Jack Wilder Dean. The article states that Jack went missing in May, which lines up with the 3 days he was asleep during his use of the dream visualizer. But the article also says that his disappearance was subject to a statewide manhunt. He also appears to have gone missing after releasing a new special, which I assume to be Jack Wilder's survival guide. While most of this is subject to speculations, we now know that Jack is in fact an integral character to the plot of this story and has been investigating the iris and its effects for some time. Now, one question you might be asking is, how was he not found after waking up? There are a few possibilities that come to mind. The first being that he died after going into his 3-day slumber, but this doesn't really add up because his sleep was mapped to a 3-day period, meaning that he woke up. I believe this signals to us that he might still be alive but is in hiding, as he seems to be involved in some pretty touchy and secretive subjects. Or there's a third possibility. Someone silenced him for learning too much. Either way, we know that Jack is knowledgeable about what is happening with the iris and the wood crawlers. He is trying to educate people about this unstoppable force, and he has many threats that are after him. So knowing this, is there still any hope that Earth can be saved? Or is Jack already dead? The next video is brought to us by a company known as Optica Video. They present us with a tape made for kids who are bored and looking for new activities. It is pretty normal, complete with upbeat background music and a kid-friendly art design. But if there is one thing we have learned about this series so far, is that this aesthetic won't last very long. The first game introduced to us is the classic hide and seek. We are told the roles of those who participate in the game. One person assumes the role of the seeker, while the rest are the hiders. The seeker counts to 20 and goes on to seek out the other players. The next is freeze tag. One player is it, while the others are runners who must avoid getting tagged. If they are tagged, they are supposed to freeze in place, and if they are tagged by a runner, they are unfrozen and get to play again. When all the runners are frozen, it wins. The third game is known as Sardines. Similar to hide and seek, it involves hiding and seeking, but that's a silly line. But instead of one seeker, there is one hider, while everybody else seeks. When a seeker finds a hider, they are supposed to do their best to hide with them, and the game ends when everybody is hiding. Our final game is called Feed the Woods. The tape tells the children that for this game, they must wait until everyone inside their home is sleeping.
Once they are sure, they must then sneak outside. Once outside, they are told to walk into the woods until they can't see the lights anymore, and then scream at the top of their lungs. The final message the video leaves us with is that the game ends when the forest is fed, before we see a cop car get dragged underground by what I assume to be wood crawlers. The final shot of the video, however, is a haunting one. It shows Earth with the simple text, "Found you." Okay, so let's go ahead and dissect this one. Starting off with the company that produced this video, Optica Video. This is their first appearance in the series, and they have a pretty eerie debut. The tape almost seems to be made to manipulate kids into going into the woods to be killed and taken over by wood crawlers. Their name also raises some suspicion. The name Optica comes from the word optics, the scientific word for the study of sight. This closely ties them to the ever-mysterious entity that is the iris, which is literally named after the colored part of the eye. There was also a community post made by the Gemini YouTube channel that seems to be a photo of some recall paperwork. On it, we can see some questions and answers. Did you notify customers who purchased the product from you of the recall? No. Do you currently have any of the recalled items in stock? Yes. How many units of the recalled product did you remove from circulation? 150. If you do have recalled product in stock, are you planning to return the product to your company as requested? No. If you answered no to the previous question, please explain. We are not responsible for the creation of this product. Have you received any reports of illness or injury related to this product? Yes. If you answered yes to the previous question, please provide details. The children began to scream. Okay, so this is kind of eerie, but what exactly is going on here? Well, I'm no expert on product recall, but in terms of Gemini's story, here's what I think happened. Optica Video created this tape to manipulate children into going into the woods to get themselves killed and possibly lure out other adults. And it was distributed through Gemini Home Entertainment. I believe that after this, some kids actually took the video's advice and went out into the woods.
These shots we see of the woods and the child's crying face are probably some of the locations where these kids died. The police cruiser we see at the end was probably called to investigate one of these disappearances before it too gets taken by the woodcrawlers. Parents at this point would be distraught and demand the product to be taken off the shelves, reporting that their kids are screaming and walking out into the woods at night. Gemini then files the report we see in the community post to recall the product. But how do I know this is Gemini? Well, about a year later, there is another community post that goes into even more detail on the subject. A shot of an article that details the delays of Gemini Home Entertainment's VHS production following the controversy of the Games for Kids tape, as well as Jack's Wilderness Survival Guide, World's Weirdest Animals, and more. In the article, an unknown spokesperson for Gemini Home Entertainment says that the company was not aware of these tamperings and will be experiencing delays in their production. This is also Remy's way of letting his audience know that the actual uploads on the channel would be delayed. A great way to notify your audience without breaking immersion. Alright, are you still with me? Okay, I know that was probably me over-investigating, but it is truly fascinating and crucial to dissect everything we can to understand this story. We still have a long way to go, and a lot of questions left to be answered. Who are Optica? What is their goal? Whoever they might be, their intentions seem to be in support of a being that could lead the human race to extinction. The next video is brought to us by a mining company known as the NAMAD, the Northern Alberta Mining and Development Company. In the video, they show off what they proclaim to be the future of mining technology. The advanced vehicle, known as the Remote Operated Compact Tunneler, or ROCT for short. It is completely operated via computer, which means it can traverse areas inaccessible to humans. Coming equipped with a powerful hydraulic system, a compact microphone, depth and status meter, and even a rotating camera, the vehicle is perfect for tunneling into the deepest depths of the Earth. Those that we, silly humans, can't reach and have never seen. In the footage, taken from this advanced mining vehicle, we hear something scuttling through the darkness before the camera experiences some glitches. However, the depth and status meters function as normal, and we can see the vehicle has been compromised and gets dragged to a depth of 39 meters to 145 meters in a matter of seconds. The camera manages to reboot, and we can see in the following footage that the vehicle seems to be hanging from the stalactites of a cave. We can also make out these strange root-like structures hanging as well. In a weird twist, the video shows us a diagram with text that states blood pumps through the garden. The crops mature. Another diagram. Shifting tendons shape anatomy. Mutation of the heart. This video shows us something we haven't seen before. A woodcrawler nest. Remember, these creatures are highly resilient, and we have gotten hints of them living underground before, but now it's confirmed. The diagrams appear to depict this nest, which it describes as a garden mutating the heart of Earth, changing our entire planet from the inside out. The veins are likely a reference to these strange red vines that we haven't really seen yet. Their purpose isn't known at this point, but we can assume, however, it has to do something with the creation of woodcrawlers, since this seems to be where they reside. Just multiplying right beneath our feet. The Warner Area Department of Health. Another company we haven't seen yet brings us an educational film on something called deep root disease. The video takes us through different aspects of this disease, starting with the roots themselves. We are told that they develop under the bulbs and begin to burrow deeper into the infected person's skin. This is known as the rooting stage. The roots grow until they make contact with the bone, allowing them to spread freely. In the next segment, the video lets us know how a person could contract this disease, to which it shows us a person sleeping in their bed, meaning that you can contract this disease from simply doing nothing. Next, the video talks about the bulbs. The bulbs appear on exposed parts of the body, starting out small with a length of 2 to 10 centimeters, causing them to go mostly unnoticed. During the rooting stage, the bulb becomes hard, and when touched with pressure, it will cause discomfort to the infected person. Once the rooting stage hits its climax, the sprouting begins. Sprouts. We don't know what they actually are or what they do, but we do know that they come directly from the bulb and protrude outward. This could spread the infection more easily, as it seems those who are infected must come into contact with something in order to contract the disease. This is confirmed when we see the same person sleeping in their bed get suddenly dragged away by something. But one question still stands. What does deep root disease actually do, and what is the end result of being infected? Let's take a quick look back to Lethal Omen, and the Jack Wilder Wilderness Survival Guide as well. Remember the Nature's Mockery plant we discovered with the person inside? I believe this to be one of, if not the final stage of deep root disease. And in the Wilderness Survival Guide, we get our first real look at Nature's Mockery, and the video teaches us about the dangers of infection and how we should forcefully rip foreign objects from our body if we are infected. I believe this to be a reference to the bulbs and the roots. Hey, this is Future T-Metal here, sorry to jump in here. But I noticed a pretty interesting detail that reinforces my theory. If you look at the image of Nature's Mockery given to us in the Wilderness Survival Guide video, you can just barely make out a human face nestled inside of it. I thought this was a very interesting detail that I hadn't really caught until now. This just shows the amazing attention to detail this series offers. It's truly amazing. What this disease accomplishes in the grand scheme of things, though, is still unclear at this time, since we don't really know what the purpose of Nature's Mockery is just yet. But looking all the way back at World's Weirdest Animals, when we see the first wood crawler, it is labeled as Nature's Mockery. This has always confused me because they are clearly different entities, but now I believe there might actually be a connection. It is possible that wood crawlers evolve from Nature's Mockery, or are created by Nature's Mockery in some way. We can't be sure about this, but it is clear that the two are connected in some kind of way, and that both need humans to spread, dwindling the population of humanity little by little over time. Monthly Progress Report is a tape presented to us once again by our good old friends at Regnad Computing. It starts by introducing us to Project Infrared, as well as some Regnad employees that are involved. The project is active and has a progress of 84% completion. The description of the project involves the study of assisted technological progress via artificial computer learning for a variety of purposes. The video then shows us the project's progress in the form of what advances they have made in 4 sections. Computer processing. Development in and throughout the month of October has led to major increases in graphical capabilities in Regnad products. In a nice callback, we are shown some assets from Lethal Omen that demonstrate this graphical capability. Predictive advancement. Advancements to the ACL have allowed Regnad to gain insight to unprecedented technological events, and with the help of their client, are expected to surpass all competitors within the year, outshining them with their graphics, RAM, and processing power. Failure avoidance. Failure avoidance highlights the fact that with the help and wisdom of their client, they have been able to run hypothetical scenarios through the ACL to avoid 23 technological failures. This client sounds like a pretty cool person. I wonder who they could be. ACL communication. When we hit the 4th segment, ACL communication, the video takes a turn. We see the ACL send prompts to the client, which has the same appearance as the iris. The ACL sends prompts to the iris, and the iris responds with iterations, in the same structure as those from tape 4. Let's break down the segment as a whole. First off, the room. It seems that the room is full of the roots we saw in deep root disease, and that they can possibly spread through technological means. It is hard to know if the employees of Regnad have been wiped out due to this, but with the message at the end of the video stating that they are hoping to meet their client in 7 months, it leads me to believe that many of them are still alive. Second, if we look closely, we can see that they are on iteration 1417, meaning Regnad has been communicating with the iris for some time now through artificial intelligence. This fact also confirms that in tape 4, rather than the AI creating the stories, it was the AI that sent out the prompts to the iris, which explains why the tape and its stories contain several references to real events and characters. The third thing I want to cover is the creature itself. Rather than being in space, like the actual iris, it seems to be located deep underground, leading me to believe that the iris has somehow infected Earth and is speaking through the roots, acting like some kind of hive mind for all the threats we have seen so far. Now let's talk about the iterations. The first prompt entered into the computer is Earth, and the client responds with,
Mary sees the gateway die. Sleeping ones are eaten whole. The vessel floats into the maw. The jaw unhinges. Pretty cryptic. The first line references the gateway, which we know to be Saturn from the solar system video. It seems that Saturn might be blocking some of the iris's influence on Earth, and will soon be destroyed, along with Earth as the jaw of the iris unhinges. The second prompt entered is Moonlight, a reference to the Moonlight Acres camp, most likely. New things roam the feeding grounds. The harbinger guards in vain. Mary hears a creaking sound. The hungry eye is welcomed. This one is a bit tough to understand. I'm not sure what the quote-unquote new things roaming the feeding grounds could be referring to. It could either be wood crawlers or possibly the fake people roaming around the camp as they continue to multiply. The Harbinger seems to be a direct reference to Harbinge Technologies, hinting that the videos we have seen from them so far have been somewhat genuine, and that they are trying to warn people about this threat, but to no avail. We see this in Lethal Omen when the woodcrawler breaks through the underground shelter. As much as Harbinge Technologies tries, their instructions don't work, and it seems the Iris knows about them as well. Mary hearing a creaking sound could suggest that she has succumbed to the woodcrawlers, or something worse, as she is becoming increasingly important to the story, and the Iris's plot to take over Earth. The final prompt entered is Jack, to which the only response is... It seems that despite his best efforts, Jack has been mutated or killed off completely. We can only assume when this happened, but looking back at World's Weirdest Animals, I can only assume that it was when the fake people attacked him. Moving into the last 6 tapes of the series, the plot is thickening, and things aren't looking too good for Earth. There is nothing more nostalgic than Christmas. Moonlight Acres, 1985. A Christmas party coordinated by Camp Activity Supervisor Barry Johnson, filmed by Jack and Mary Dean. Static shots fill the screen as we are made to wait for something, anything, to happen.
Something is lurking outside the cabin, wanting to get inside. One of the creepier videos of the series ends by showing us a photo of Jack with someone named Alex Whitler and Mary. Judging from the date given in the video, we can assume it takes place earlier in the timeline, along with the fact that Jack and Mary seem to still be alive, as they were hired to film some footage of the Moonlight Acres Christmas Eve party for commercial use, as found in a community post made on the Gemini YouTube channel. However, something went horribly wrong. In the video, we are shown two sets of camera footage, one from inside the cabin and another from outside as the sun goes down. I believe Jack is filming inside the cabin while Mary is filming outside, where she is attacked by this creature, which doesn't appear to be a woodcrawler. It is massive and has these tentacles that protrude from these spores in the body. It could have some relation to the creature seen at the end of tape 6. And if we look back at tape 4, we now have a clearer picture of what these story iterations are actually telling us. Whatever this thing is, it seems to me that it is able to assimilate the bodies of its victims into its own being, explaining why the video dubbed it as Mary herself. An interesting detail that confirms this is the fact that if you reverse the audio in the video, you will hear Mary crying out in a distorted voice for Jack to open the door. Let me go ahead and play it for you now. In the story iterations, we know that Mary is carried away by a river,
But I don't think it's an actual river that the video is referring to. I think it's referring to this creature. She is carried away by it during the Christmas Eve party and is assimilated into its body. She has become something else. Jack and Mary could have also shown up at the party with other intentions. As in the story iterations, we know they are also looking for the secret place. Perhaps they were trying to investigate Moonlight Acres more closely and use the Christmas Eve party to get in. But in doing so, Jack lost his wife. All she is a part of this monstrosity now. But one mystery still stands. What exactly is this thing, and where did it even come from? We're just gonna have to wait and see. Time for another tape from Optica Video. This time we are learning how to protect ourselves from a home invasion, or at least that's what we are made to believe at first. The video starts out by telling us that windows and doors are the most common entry points of a home, and we should make sure they are locked while also looking for security systems that can be disabled with blunt force. Yeah, as the video goes on, we can start to realize that rather than giving information to the victim of a home invasion, it is giving advice to the invader themselves. This isn't some helpful guide. It's a tutorial. The tape gives advice to the invader on how to enter a home most efficiently without alerting their prey. The first few tips make it clear that this tape was intended for the wood crawlers, as evidenced by the audio luring technique and the burrowing underneath the home. Once inside the home, they are to locate the prey, incapacitate them, and enter their body through the proboscis, the navel cavity. We cut to footage of someone entering a home at night. What they find is disturbing, to say the least. It's here that we see the late stages of deep root disease. Vaguely recognizable human bodies made completely out of roots, stripped of everything that once made them human. Well, everything physical, that is. In a horrifying realization, we can see the people are still alive, able to feel everything that is being done to them. The cameraman is attacked and incapacitated by a woodcrawler, and the tape ends. It is confirmed now that Optica Video is not a good company. They seem to be helping the Iris's invasion by feeding information to the woodcrawlers on how to take over humanity more easily. Why they are doing this is unclear, but we now know that if they show up again, they cannot be trusted. The Geneva production company strikes again, here to present us with information gathered by a space probe known as Crusader 5. The 12-year flyby mission has brought new data and photos for us to view of our universe. Let's take a look. In its mission, the probe drifted by Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune, taking photographs as it did. We are told that the probe reached Jupiter in June of 1982. Successfully photographing the planet's many moons in the process, but the video cuts off. In December 1985, the probe approached Saturn. In 1991, it approached Neptune. The video experiences some glitches when trying to show us a picture of Neptune, but if we slow down, we can see that there is nothing where Neptune should be. In 1992, the Crusader approached what is called the first cluster. The first picture we see is of the moon Themis, which actually isn't a real moon. In 1905, American astronomer William H. Pickering announced that he had found the 10th moon of Saturn, naming it Themis, although no one has ever confirmed Themis to be real, until now. But the weirdness doesn't stop there. We see more moons, mutated and out of orbit. Before, in 1992, the Crusader approaches something new. The Crusader is pulled into the iris, making its way through what is dubbed the lateral passage. It continues its journey through the iris, making its way through some very organic named parts of the planet. Photographs taken from inside the iris are dark and completely alien to us. Roots, eggs, a spinal cord, eyes. We can't be sure, and unfortunately for us, the video only gets more confusing in the next section. When the Crusader reaches what is dubbed the conscious mind, we see photos of someone sleeping in their bedroom, with a deep root disease victim standing over their bed. Judging by the dates, we can see that this person had been sleeping for 3 days, as the roots slowly stretched towards them. We also get a shot of some kind of bunker in October, nearly 5 months later. The Crusader then went offline for 7 months and was picked up again as it approached Earth in 1994. This video has a lot of information to unpack, so let's take it slow and from the beginning. The Crusader mission started in 1982. We know that Moonlight Acres was established sometime in the 1930s, so the iris was probably still in our solar system, many decades before the probe was sent out. I believe that as Neptune began to mutate and strange things began to happen on Earth, the government decided to send out a probe to see what was going on. The first stop was the planet Jupiter, where it photographed 3 of its moons, and everything checked out. Next stop was Saturn, and everything seemed to be okay. We also get shots of 3 moons, Titan, Iapetus, and Chiron. One detail I didn't mention earlier, however, is that much like Themis, Chiron is a moon that doesn't actually exist, or at least has never been confirmed to exist. During the glitch, when we transition to Neptune, the video does give us an interesting detail about the Crusader's photography of Saturn's moons, that being that it only photographed 2 of them, when it clearly photographed 3. As for Neptune itself, it is nowhere to be found. It has completely vanished from the solar system. And then there is the iris. The Crusader is pulled into the iris's gravitational pull, and we see the inside of the iris, which looks organic and alive. When the Crusader reaches what we can assume to be the iris's brain, we are shown images taken from Earth. So what's up with that? Well, it's kind of hard to have a definitive answer for something so out there, but I would assume that the iris probably has some way of watching Earth through the eyes of the many threats it places there. The Crusader somehow tapped into these images through the mind of the iris. How? Screw you, that's how. After 7 months of its signal being lost, the Crusader begins to make its way to Earth. If we want to look at it differently, though, it never left the iris, but is rather being carried as the iris makes its way to Earth. A scary realization, if it is in fact true. Earth doesn't have much time. The final 3 tapes we are covering are made to be part of a 4-part series of videos that explain some of the lore behind the Moonlight Acres camp and the mysterious happenings that took place there over the years. They are not distributed by Gemini Home Entertainment, but rather Moonlight Acres themselves, giving off a unique vibe. Let's take a dive into the first. It starts with live footage taken from Lake Mountbank in Canada 25 minutes before the first attack, whatever that is. In the footage, we are shown a close-up shot of some kind of geyser shooting up from the ground before the feed is cut and we transition to a handwritten letter. May 3rd,
1946. Curtis, come down to the camp this weekend. Fulton and I have devised a plan on how we can continue to uphold the deal without giving into these beings' abhorrent demands. Richards has seen a bear lurking near the boys' cabin. We will go out and shoot it. If the statue wants a sacrifice, it will have to settle for this. I will be a pawn no longer. Curtis, I tell you this with complete certainty. If I could do it over again, I would have never made that deal. Glenn Arthur. This is interesting for a number of reasons. First, this letter is dated May 3rd, 1946, placing it very early in our timeline. Glenn Arthur is a new character, but as we will learn later on, he might be the most important character of the series. He writes to a man named Curtis about a plan he has devised with another man named Fulton. He writes about not giving into the abhorrent demands of beings that are not made explicit. What is made explicit is that the deal involves sacrificing human lives to these beings, and Glenn can no longer take it. He decides that rather than sacrificing a person, they will sacrifice a bear, and hoped that it suffices, expressing regret for ever making the deal in the first place. Another piece of writing is shown to us. May 1946. Wretched hands tap my window. A stranger's fangs scrape the walls. After this piece of writing, we are shown photographs of the creature from the Christmas Eve party that highlight the different parts of its body, as well as those who have been assimilated into it. Bo Nadler, Lloyd Michaels, Christine Hoyt, Darcy Agon. Mary Dean, Glenn Arthur. These photos must have been taken after the Christmas Eve party because we know this is when Mary was assimilated. And all things considered, when looking at their bodies highlighted inside the creature, Mary is more human-like in her features, while Glenn, who likely got assimilated in the 40s, has nothing. No recognizable human features to speak of. We are told that this suggests an increase in organism deterioration once a mutation occurs. We are also told that the creature has lost all resemblance to a bear. I think you can see where this is going. Rather than explain it here, let's move through the last two videos and put everything together at the end. Shifting Tendons, despite being one of the newer videos in this series, is probably my all-time favorite. It starts with footage of a root, before swiftly transitioning us to the sleep image visualization of Barry Johnson, one of the survivors of the Christmas Eve attack. In it, he seems to be looking through a door with one of these mannequin figures peering through, staring directly at him. July 16th, 1991, 6 days into self-quarantine. In a transition, we can see the logo for the Warner Area Department of Health, the company that created and produced the Deep Root Disease tape. They show us a diagram of the human body as it is taken over by the roots. August 6, 1991, 27 days into self-quarantine. The infected body becomes nature's mockery. September 7th, 1991, 59 days into quarantine.
Do you know who you are? We can hear you.
In the first real voice acting segment of the series, the staff interview Barry Johnson in order to assess his psychological state after 59 days of being infected with deep root disease. It seems that either sometime after or during the Christmas Eve party, Barry Johnson was infected with deep root disease. It is confirmed in this video that deep root disease is responsible for creating nature's mockery,
which theoretically is responsible for producing wood crawlers. The line, "the interior of Barry Johnson is discovered to be occupied," suggests that somehow wood crawlers are able to be produced by nature's mockery, finally tying all these different elements together. It seems that after Barry found out he was infected, he decided to have the camp staff lock him up and monitor his condition. He took a book and a radio, knowing that he would probably never be leaving that room. And so, we arrive at, sadly, the final tape of Gemini Home Entertainment. For now, at least. It is composed of journal entries from Glenn Arthur, the man who sacrificed the bear, and would later get assimilated into the same bear he sacrificed. The first is dated May 13th, 1935. It starts with Glenn proclaiming he has seen a vision. We are shown a drawing from Glenn that depicts Neptune's mutation and something crash landing on a mountain, which he dubs heavenly visitors. The second, dated 2 days later on May 15th, has Glenn proclaiming that angels visited him while he slept. Distorted faces line the pages in Glenn's notes, and he asks the question, "Who am I that the hosts of heaven would commune with me? The unconscious mind is a door, and I hold the key. Oh, dream speakers, name yourselves." The third, dated May 23rd, 1935, begins with Glenn stating that he had a vision from his angels, and a vision of a half-living thing growing outside the camp. A statue carved in their likeness, arms reaching out, like a child's. In May 1941, the deal is sealed. In May
1946. The deal is broken. Iterations of those assimilated flash on screen, their minds still active and aware as they decay. And Gemini gives us our first look at Glenn Arthur, assimilated, calling for anyone to help. Due to the technology of a 1930s camera, we cannot hear his cries, which is probably for the best. This series has a lot of information that is tied together very loosely. I'll be honest, I won't be able to answer everything in this video, but I am going to do my best. This is very much a Greylock situation, as the series hasn't even ended yet, so we don't have enough information on what everything means at this time. But what we can do is make some assumptions and theories. There is a timeline here, buried beneath all the horror we just witnessed, and I want to find it. So, let's go through everything we have so far and see what we can make of it. As stated in Genesis, in the beginning, there was nothing. Darkness was on the face of the void, and from the void came a form of life. The iris. A planet-sized organism of unknown origin traveled through space, finding our solar system. It took rest between Neptune and Pluto, and began spying on Earth. It watches and waits for the right moment to strike. Sometime during this process, the iris mutates Neptune through means that are not entirely clear to us. Through this mutation, however, the iris is able to send many threats to Earth to start its invasion. In the 1930s, or possibly even earlier, woodcrawlers and nature's mockery land on Earth and begin to multiply. The woodcrawlers begin to build their nests, burrowing deep into the earth, slowly ingraining themselves into society through the complex form of body snatching, creating fake people. In the year of 1930, Glenn Arthur establishes the Moonlight Acres campgrounds. As the camp grows more successful and more people begin to visit, rumors begin to spread of skinwalkers roaming outside the camp. And on May 13th, 1935, Glenn has a vision featuring a mountain near or at the camp being struck by a beam of some sort coming from what appears to be the planet Neptune, and wonders if it marks the arrival of heavenly visitors. On May 15th, Glenn has a vision of these visitors and draws them in his notes, making them appear as well-dressed men in suits with disproportionate faces. What they are exactly is unclear to us at this time. They could be fake people controlled by the woodcrawlers trying to infiltrate the camp, or something else entirely. On May 23rd, these well-dressed men send Glenn another vision of a half-living organism growing outside the camp, which he refers to as a statue carved in their likeness. 6 years go by, and in 1941, the well-dressed men make a deal with Glenn. The terms of this deal involve sacrificing campgoers to the statue growing outside of the camp. What Glenn gets in return is most likely protection from the many threats of the iris. So he takes the deal, not knowing how much it would affect him later on. Years later, in 1946, Glenn has had enough and decides he will not continue to sacrifice innocent people for these creatures. He devises a plan to instead shoot a bear and offer it up as a sacrifice to the statue in hopes that it will be satisfied.
But of course, this doesn't go as planned. When the bear is sacrificed, it becomes an abomination and terrorizes Glenn. Wretched hands tap my window. A stranger's fangs scrape the walls. Eventually, Glenn is assimilated into the creature, where he is slowly killed over time. This causes the camp to get shut down for many years, as wood crawlers multiply and nature's mockery spreads deep-root disease. Over the next few years, during the 70s or 80s, Gemini Home Entertainment is established and begins distributing VHS tapes for various companies. Harbinge Technologies forms after the threat of the iris's influence becomes more known, and they begin to develop tapes and technology to help those faced with the many threats that originate from it. Specifically, those residing at the newly opened Moonlight Acres campground. Regnad, on the other hand, becomes entranced by the iris and begins to communicate with it through their new form of AI computing. The Geneva Video Production Company begins making new discoveries about the wood crawlers and other anomalies on Earth, and would soon produce the video of the Crusader 5 probe mission. Optica Video, a company that likely started out in family video production, at some point gets influenced by the iris, and begins creating misleading videos that lead people to their deaths. In the years that follow the release of these VHS tapes, the iris's influence becomes hard to ignore, and it is likely that the government begins to get involved. New devices are created to study these anomalies, like the ROCT and the Crusader 5 probe, which begins its mission in 1982. The first stop on its mission is Jupiter, where everything seems to be normal, and it makes its way to Saturn. Going back to Earth, we have events happening at the same time. Mainly, the reopening of Moonlight Acres in 1985. This reopening tape shows us the safety measures the camp has taken in order to keep the campgoers happy and protected from the wood crawlers. In December of the same year, they put out flyers asking for an experienced videographer to shoot some footage of the camp's Christmas Eve party. Jack and Mary Dean accept the offer. Little do they know that this is about to be the worst night of their lives. The mutated bear, which has still been roaming around the campgrounds, attacks Mary and assimilates her into its being. It then goes on to attack the rest of the partygoers. Jack, however, manages to escape, and pledges to expose the iris's influence in the only way he knows how, by creating VHS tapes of his own and distributing them through Gemini Home Entertainment. While this is happening, the Crusader probe makes its way to Saturn and photographs it from 1985 to 1986, and makes its way to Neptune in 1991, finding that the planet has completely vanished. In 1992, it is pulled into the iris, and the signal was lost in 1993. It can be assumed that during this time period, Jack filmed the World's Weirdest Animals documentary, as well as the Wilderness Survival Guide. Only one question remains: how did he die? We know that from the conversation with the iris's hive mind in the monthly progress report that something did happen to him, but where is he? I at first believed him to die at the end of World's Weirdest Animals, but I don't think that's the case. I instead believe that the found footage we are seeing in the home invasion video is from Jack. It also helps that we actually see Jack through the iris's vision captured by the Crusader probe, where we see him sleeping in bed for 3 days. The same 3 days he was reported to be missing. Why he recorded his dreams with the infected person standing next to his bed is unclear to me. But in a small detail listed in the deep root disease video, we are told that those who contract the disease are unable to dream. He could have possibly been checking himself for an infection, but that's just a theory. Either way, this probably compelled him to investigate a home where the inhabitants are clearly infected with DRD. But during the investigation, he is found by a woodcrawler and turned into a fake person. Hence the message, Jack is with us now. I think it's good for me at this time to explain how I think all of the threats of the iris connect, those being the wood crawlers, nature's mockery, and deep root disease. It all starts with deep root disease. We can see this in the case of Barry Johnson.
which conveniently is the next event in our timeline. If you remember, Barry Johnson was the coordinator for the Christmas Eve party, and was there when the abomination attacked. It can be assumed that after the attack, or possibly during the attack, he was infected with DRD, and let himself be quarantined for study in 1991. He is monitored by Levi Jacobs, one of the names we saw in the SIV video. Pretty interesting. I'm not sure what the connection is, but I think what this is meant to tell us is that Levi could be a staff member at Moonlight Acres, since the SIV was distributed there pretty heavily, but that's just a theory. During Barry's transformation, we see his body has become completely unrecognizable. He also seems to have been connected with the Iris's hive mind, after he repeats the phrase, "We can hear you." He could just be repeating what is being said to him, but I don't think that's the case. Towards the end of the interview, we are told that the inside of Barry seems to be inhabited by something. I believe this is how the wood crawlers are created. Once a person is infected with DRD, they slowly deform into nature's mockery, which hatch wood crawlers from within. From here, wood crawlers can freely gut and inhabit a person's body, turning them into a fake person. DRD as a disease is terrifying because it seems to be contracted by physical contact or simply doing nothing, meaning that no one is safe from it. And this means that wood crawlers are constantly multiplying. In the farthest date we are given, that being May of 1994, the Crusader probe begins to make its way back to Earth, possibly being carried by the Iris. And that is where the story of Gemini Home Entertainment ends, for now. Wow. Alright, are you still with me? I know that was a lot. Much of Gemini's story is left up to interpretation, making it a very complicated puzzle to fully decipher, especially since it's still ongoing. There are still many questions, like the mannequins being a big one. I have no idea what these things represent, to be completely honest with you, and they kind of have me stumped. Or the mystery of why Moonlight Acres is stashing SIVs in every cabin that they have on their property. Who is behind the Optica videotapes? What exactly is the statue? Who are the well-dressed men? Are they fake people or something else? Is there any way to even stop the threat being presented to us? It is impossible to answer everything, but exceedingly exciting to theorize about it. And I want to take this moment to thank everybody who stuck around to this point in the video. This project was a huge undertaking, not just in video production, but setbacks. For those who saw my update video, you will understand that I basically lost this video in a computer update and had to restart from scratch. And it made said video production a lot longer than I would have liked it to be, but I also learned a lot in the process. For all those who have encouraged me to keep going, I appreciate every word, and to be blunt, I couldn't have made this happen without you. So thank you very much for watching this video to the end. I would also like to make the announcement that now with college out of the way, I am taking YouTube a lot more seriously. It's at this point I would like to announce that I have opened a channel membership. You guys can subscribe to that to support me and my video making, as well as getting some cool rewards in the process. I did my best to make something substantial without putting too much more work on my shoulders. Any feedback is greatly appreciated. I'm still kinda new to this whole YouTube business thing. And if you guys have any theories, I would be more than happy to read them in the comments below. What's your interpretation of Gemini's story? I would love to know. And I, much like many other people, will eagerly be awaiting Gemini's return. And I truly hope that I did the source material justice with this video. I had a great time making it. Until next time, thank you very much for watching. Stay safe. Good night.